The cold wind of the alien world whipped across the jagged cliffs of Thalvara. Bright blue clouds hung low over the horizon, reflecting the twin suns in fiery streaks. From a distance, the spires of crystalline cities shimmered like jewels, yet far below, the land was harsh, wild, and dangerous. Many species had tried to survive on Thalvara, but most gave up within weeks. Zyra, a young alien girl from the Varelians, crouched on a cliff ledge, her 4 slender arms gripping the edge. Her violet skin glowed faintly in the dim light, and her eyes, large and reflective, scanned the treacherous terrain below. She had been sent by her elders on a mission she thought impossible: observe the strange human species that had arrived in their sector, and report back whether they were as weak and fragile as legend claimed. She had heard stories. Legends passed down by her people described humans as tiny, frail creatures, incapable of surviving even the mildest of Thalvara's storms. They said humans would never last a day in a hostile world without dying from fear or hunger. Zyra had believed it until she spotted something moving far below the cliffs. A human. Zyra's heart skipped. Humans were supposed to be myths here. She had never seen one before, not up close, not in real life. From afar, he looked small and fragile, just as the legends claimed. But there was something about the way he moved. Confident, alert, careful but daring, that made her pause. He wasn't stumbling or panicking. He was navigating the dangerous rocks with focus and determination, his eyes scanning constantly. The human paused near a narrow chasm. Zyra watched as he examined it, then reached into a small pack and pulled out a thin rope-like device. With a few precise movements, he anchored it, then began climbing down into the chasm. His muscles flexed, his movements controlled. She felt a strange sensation. Was this fear? No, it was awe. Could it be that humans were actually capable of surviving here? Zyra's curiosity got the better of her. She dropped from her perch and landed silently behind a jagged rock. She wanted to get closer to see how he survived. Her 4 limbs made her landing almost soundless, and she approached with the skill of a predator. But her mind raced. I must report this, she whispered to herself. If humans are really like this, my elders will not believe me. The human stopped at a strange-looking plant that pulsed faintly with light. He bent down and examined it, carefully taking a sample. Zyra's eyes widened. Only the cleverest species could recognize which plants were safe to touch, which were poisonous. Humans. Maybe they were more than myths. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the ground. Zyra's instincts screamed danger. The cliff above had begun to crumble. Large rocks tumbled down and the human looked up, his eyes widening in alarm. He had no time to think, only to act. Zyra froze. This was her chance. She could stay hidden, or she could help him, and see firsthand what humans were capable of. Without hesitation, she ran forward. Her legs were fast, almost too fast for the human to notice her approach. With a quick shout, she grabbed a falling rock just before it struck him, redirecting it harmlessly away. The human froze, staring at her with wide eyes. What are you?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly but filled with curiosity rather than fear. Zyra hesitated. She had never spoken to a human before. I am Zyra of the Varelians," she said. Her voice was soft but carried over the wind. You are stronger than my people expected." The human gave a small laugh, a mix of relief and wonder. "I guess myths aren't always right." He extended a hand. "Name's Ethan. I'm surviving." Zyra studied him carefully. Every movement he made was precise, deliberate, and intelligent. She had expected weakness, panic, failure, but instead she saw resilience, cleverness, and courage. Humans were not the fragile creatures her people had described. Over the next few hours, Zyra followed Ethan at a safe distance. She watched as he navigated rocky ledges, found clean water from a hidden stream, and even created a small fire to keep himself warm as night fell. She noticed the way he analyzed everything, always thinking, always planning. Her heart raced, not from fear but from excitement. This human was teaching her something she could never have imagined. Finally, the ground shook again, this time more violently. A pack of wild Thalvaran predators, large, spiky beasts with glowing eyes, emerged from the shadows. Ethan froze for only a moment before acting. He picked up a fallen branch, then cleverly used it to create a trap, causing one of the predators to stumble and fall. Another human might have panicked, but not Ethan. He assessed, adapted, and acted. Zira's jaw dropped. She had never seen such instinct, such intelligence under pressure. Even she, trained for years in survival and combat, found herself impressed. Humans. Maybe they were the strongest species she had ever encountered. Suddenly, a rock slide began above Ethan's position. Zira knew he would not have time to react. Without thinking, she leapt forward and pushed him out of the way, taking the brunt of the impact herself. Pain shot through her arms and legs, but she barely noticed. When she looked up, Ethan was staring at her, eyes wide. "You saved me?" he asked, disbelief clear in his voice. Zira nodded, breathing heavily. I had to. Humans are amazing." Ethan laughed, a mix of relief and excitement. "Well, thanks. I guess we're not so weak after all." Night fell over Thalvara, and the two sat by a small fire Ethan had made. Zira studied him carefully, trying to understand. Humans were unlike anything her people had described. They were fragile in appearance, yes, but inside they carried courage, ingenuity, and heart. "You're not afraid of me?" Ethan asked suddenly, glancing at her glowing skin and forearms. Zira shook her head. "No, I am learning from you. Humans are stronger than myths," Ethan smiled. "And you're brave too. Most aliens wouldn't come near me even if I were in trouble." Zira felt a strange warmth at his words. She had always been trained to follow orders, to study without emotion. Yet this human, he made her feel something she had never felt before. Admiration, curiosity, maybe even friendship. The wind howled outside, and the twin moons rose high in the sky. Zira realized that this encounter was only the beginning. Humans were not myths. Humans were alive, clever, and astonishingly capable, and she had only just begun to understand what they could do. Tomorrow she would return to her people with a report. But tonight she would watch the human, learn from him, and discover the truth that no legend could ever capture. As the fire flickered, Ethan glanced at her and said, "If you stick around, I think you'll see even more surprises. Thalvara isn't easy, but humans, we find a way." Zira's eyes sparkled. For the first time in her life, she felt hope and excitement. Humans were not myths. Humans were extraordinary, and Zira knew that her life and perhaps the future of her people would never be the same again. The morning light broke over Thalvara like molten gold, illuminating the jagged cliffs and deep chasms that had tested humans for centuries. Zira awoke from her makeshift shelter, still amazed that she had survived the previous night alongside Ethan. The small fire he had built burned low, giving off a faint, comforting warmth. Ethan was already awake, stretching and checking the terrain around them. "Morning," he said casually, though his eyes were alert. "We'll need to move soon. Thalvara isn't forgiving, and these cliffs won't wait for us to wake up." Zira blinked, still adjusting to the alien sun. "You are awake early," she said. "Most humans rest longer." Ethan laughed lightly. "Not when you're on a planet like this. You get used to moving fast and thinking fast. No time to waste." He gestured toward the cliffs below. "Come on, I want to show you something." Zira followed cautiously, her forelimbs giving her agility that humans could only dream of. But she noticed something remarkable. Ethan moved with purpose, analyzing every step, every foothold, every potential danger. He didn't rush blindly. He calculated, adapted, and adjusted. Zira realized she had underestimated humans even more than she had admitted. They descended the cliffs toward a narrow canyon, its walls steep and treacherous. Zira noticed the signs of recent predator activity, scratches on rocks, broken branches, and faint glowing footprints. Most creatures on Thalvara were aggressive and territorial, and anyone unprepared could easily fall victim. Ethan paused at the canyon entrance. "This is where I found something amazing yesterday," he said, pointing to a faint glimmer along the canyon floor. Zira squinted and saw what looked like an intricate network of tunnels carved into the rock, their edges glowing faintly with natural luminescence. "Caves?" Zira whispered. "They are alive," Ethan nodded. "Not alive, but close. These tunnels are home to creatures that are tricky. Some are dangerous, but others provide resources we can use. Water, edible plants, safe shelter. It's all about understanding them." Zira's mind raced. Humans, frail by legend, could not only survive but also recognize patterns, analyze ecosystems, and use them to their advantage. Her admiration for Ethan grew. She had expected weakness, yet here he was, thriving where most species would perish. As they entered the tunnels, Zyra noticed glowing mushrooms lining the walls. Ethan bent down, examining one carefully, then took out a small device that could analyze chemical composition. Within moments, he confirmed it was safe to touch. Zyra was amazed. You test everything before you use it. Humans are careful, clever, prepared, Ethan shrugged. You learn fast or you don't last. It's not about strength. It's about brains, observation, and quick thinking. That's how humans survive in places like this. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the tunnels. Both froze. From the shadows, a creature emerged, a four-legged beast with translucent skin that shimmered in the dim light. Its multiple eyes glowed like embers, and long, sharp claws scratched the stone floor. Zyra's instincts screamed to attack, but Ethan moved forward calmly. He picked up a nearby rock and tossed it toward a side chamber. The creature, curious, turned its attention toward the sound. Ethan seized the moment, moving quietly past it with Zyra close behind. The creature growled again but did not follow. Zyra's jaw dropped. Most Varelians, trained hunters and warriors, would have panicked or attacked. But Ethan had used strategy, patience, and observation, not brute force. He had outsmarted the predator. Your species is incredible, Zyra whispered once they were safe. Ethan smiled. Not incredible, just adaptable. We figure things out. We learn, and sometimes we help each other. That's how we survive. Zyra's mind swirled with admiration. She had always believed her species was one of the most advanced, but here was a human. Small, frail by appearance, yet smarter, braver, and more resourceful than she could have imagined. As they explored deeper into the tunnels, Ethan explained his method. Observe first. Understand what's safe. Then act. Don't rush. Don't panic. Make the environment work for you, not against you. Zyra nodded, taking mental notes. Her people had skills, training, and knowledge. But humans had something different: resilience, intelligence, and courage that did not rely on physical superiority. Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels. They discovered small pools of water, clusters of edible plants, and even a few abandoned nests of native creatures. Zyra was careful to note everything, knowing this knowledge would astound her elders. Humans weren't weak. Humans were innovators, survivors, and thinkers. Later, they found a cavern large enough to rest. Ethan began assembling a temporary shelter using rocks and vines, his movements precise and efficient. Zyra watched, fascinated by how a human could create comfort and safety from almost nothing. You are skilled, she said. Most of my people could not do this in days, yet you, in hours. Ethan laughed softly. You underestimate humans. We survive by thinking ahead, by being clever. Strength alone doesn't matter if your brain doesn't work. Brains and courage, that's the key. As night fell, Zyra stared at the glowing walls of the cavern. She had seen humans described as fragile, weak, and easily frightened. Yet here was Ethan, small and seemingly delicate, outsmarting predators, finding food and surviving in a deadly environment. Her mind struggled to reconcile the legends with reality. You really think humans are weak? Ethan asked suddenly, noticing her expression. Zyra shook her head. No, I see now. Humans are remarkable, stronger than any myth, smarter, braver, alive in ways my people cannot imagine. Ethan smiled. I've been trying to show you that. You'll see even more soon. Thalvara is tough, but humans, we adapt. Just then, a rumble shook the cavern. The floor vibrated and small rocks fell from the ceiling. Ethan's instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed Zyra's arm, pulling her behind a large rock just as a chunk of stone crashed down where they had been moments ago. Zyra's heart pounded, but she realized something profound. Humans didn't just survive, they thrived under pressure. Danger didn't freeze them. It sharpened their senses, forced them to think faster and act smarter. Once the danger passed, Ethan helped her up. You okay? He asked. Zyra nodded, still catching her breath. Yes, and you? You are amazing, Ethan shrugged. Not amazing. Just human. We surprise a lot of people, especially aliens. He chuckled softly. Zyra laughed too, a soft musical sound that echoed in the cavern. She felt something shift inside her. Her mission had been to observe humans and report their weaknesses, but instead she was learning from them, inspired by them, and maybe even wanting to help them. The night passed quietly, and when dawn arrived, Zyra and Ethan prepared to leave the cavern. They would continue their journey, facing new dangers, exploring new territories, and discovering the strength that humans carried inside them. Zira glanced at Ethan, her violet eyes reflecting the early light. Tomorrow, I want to learn more. Teach me how humans survive, how they think. I want to understand. Ethan grinned. You're in luck. Humans don't give up easily, and we love teaching those willing to learn. Thalvara is big, dangerous, and full of lessons. As they stepped out into the rising sun, Zira felt excitement bubbling inside her. Humans were not myths. Humans were real. Humans were extraordinary. And she was only at the beginning of discovering what made them truly remarkable. The journey ahead promised danger, discovery, and a deepening bond between an alien girl and a human who had already shown her that courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome even the harshest worlds. And Zira knew one thing for certain. Her life, and perhaps the story of her people, would never be the same again.